right, everybody, get ready, because today we are going deep, and I mean deep, on Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Yeah, we're not just talking rockets here. We're talking about a whole vision, like Elon Musk's vision of humans as a multi-planet species.
And from what I'm seeing, just from glancing at these sources, vision might be understating it a little bit.
Yeah, you could say that again.
So where do we even begin with a story as ambitious, as ambitious as SpaceX's?
Let's rewind way back, early 2000s, even before SpaceX existed. Musk wasn't always about starships and Mars landings. His main thing, what really got him going, was safeguarding humanity's future.
So instead of fixing problems here, he set his sights on the cosmos. Talk about aiming high.
In a way, yeah. He saw space as like an insurance policy, something to mitigate the risk if things went, well, let's just say sideways here on Earth.
A backup plan for humanity. I can get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But where do the rockets and the Mars colonization come into all of this?
So it all starts with a surprisingly simple idea. Almost too simple. He wanted to send a greenhouse to Mars.
A greenhouse. Like to grow Martian tomatoes. Seems kind of low-tech for someone like Elon Musk.
Exactly. The greenhouse wasn't about starting an intergalactic garden. It was more about grabbing the public's attention again, Remind them about space.
Right. Get people excited about space exploration again. I like it.
Exactly. But you see, buying rockets was crazy expensive. I mean, really expensive. So Musk realized if he wanted space to be even remotely affordable, he'd have to completely change the game.
Ah, so that's where SpaceX comes in.
You got it. 2002, SpaceX is born. Their goal, make space travel actually, doable.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Yeah.
You've got Boeing, Lockheed, all these giants in the field already.
Oh, absolutely. It was like a David and Goliath situation. You've got this tiny startup going up against aerospace behemoths. Lots of people thought they were crazy.
I bet. Did they just jump right into building these massive rockets like the ones they're known for now?
They started smaller with the Falcon 1 rocket, kind of their way to show they meant business.
A proving ground. I like it.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Their first 3 launches all failed.
Oh, man. 3 failures in a row. That's rough. I can't even imagine the pressure.
It was a make-or-break moment for them. Each failure, well, it just amplified all the doubts. People saying private spaceflight would never work.
But they didn't give up.
Not a chance. They took each failure, broke it down, figured out what went wrong, and they came back stronger. Talk about resilience.
So then that 4th Falcon 1 launch, it had to be a turning point for SpaceX.
You could say that again. They were on their last legs, financially speaking, maybe even emotionally. This was it. If the 4th launch failed, that could have been the end.
No pressure.
But then, September 2008, it happened. Against all odds, that 4th Falcon 1 reached orbit.
They did it.
They did it. And it wasn't just a win for SpaceX, it was a win for the whole idea of private spaceflight. First time ever, a private company launched a rocket into orbit. The game had officially changed.
What a moment. So they'd proven themselves, launched themselves into the history books. But knowing Elon Musk, he wasn't about to slow down, right?
You think Elon Musk stops at just reaching orbit? Come on, you know him better than that. Their next big challenge? Reusability.
But through usability. Okay, break that down for me.
Up until then, rockets were basically like really expensive fireworks. One use, then poof, gone.
Never thought about it like that.
But SpaceX, they had other ideas.
They always do?
They wanted to make rockets that could be used again and again. That's where the Falcon 9 comes in.
A Falcon 9. This is getting good.
This was their next big thing. A rocket that could launch a payload into space and then, get this, land back on Earth vertically.
Wait, what? Land? Like upright? That sounds more like science fiction than reality.
Oh, people thought it was impossible. Even some big names in the space world were skeptical. And yeah, those early attempts, let's just say there were a few fireworks.
I can imagine. Blowing stuff up is just part of the learning process, right?
For SpaceX, it kind of is. And all those learning experiences, they paid off. December 2015, SpaceX did the impossible, launched a Falcon 9, completed its mission, then guided it back down for a perfect vertical landing.
I bet there was some celebrating going on at SpaceX headquarters that day.
I bet there was. It was huge. They'd shown the world that reusable rockets were the real deal. And that changed everything.
So they completely changed the economics of space travel. What's next? Where do you even go from there?
You're forgetting who we're talking about here. This is SpaceX. They've always got their eyes on the next big thing, and for them, that meant humans in space, and not just any humans, astronauts.
Okay, now this is where things get really exciting. We're going from building rockets in someone's backyard, practically, to launching humans into space.
It's a long way, that's for sure. But SpaceX, they had a plan.
I can't wait to hear all about it, but that, my friends, is a story for part 2 of our deep dive.
So picture this. A gumdrop-shaped capsule, right? That's the Crew Dragon, their ride to the International Space Station, built for astronauts.
Okay, so now we're talking about human lives, not just satellites. Did SpaceX really slow down enough to meet NASA's safety standards?
That's the thing, right? It's a whole different world going from those early kind of scrappy days to working with NASA, meticulous engineering, tons of testing, and even a little bit of, paperwork.
For SpaceX, that must have been a shock to the system.
Let's just say it was a learning curve for both of them. Showed that SpaceX could grow up a little, and NASA, well, they showed they were willing to try new things. And the thing is, it worked.
Worked is an understatement, right? Didn't SpaceX end up launching astronauts for NASA?
They did, 2020. Big year. 2 NASA astronauts launched the ISS from right here in the U.S. Think about that. For almost a decade, we had to rely on Russia to get to the space station. SpaceX changed all that.
A new era of American spaceflight. That's a pretty impressive achievement, even for SpaceX.
Definitely. But as incredible as all that is, we got to remember Elon's got a bigger goal in mind. He wants to go to Mars.
Right. Earth orbit is just the first step. So how does all of this, the NASA partnership, the Crew Dragon, tie into their Mars mission?
Think of it as practice. Developing the Crew Dragon, working with NASA, it gave SpaceX the experience they needed for those long-haul flights to Mars.
Makes sense. They had to learn how to keep humans alive in space for extended periods of time.
Exactly. And that's where Starship comes in.
Starship, now we're talking. Isn't that their Mars ship, the big one?
That's the one, reusable, designed to carry 100 people plus cargo all the way to Mars. It's massive.
I remember seeing pictures. It looks like something out of a movie. And speaking of movies, those early Starship tests, weren't those pretty spectacular?
Oh, yeah. There were a few, let's just call them learning experiences, big explosions, the whole shebang. But that's how they do things at SpaceX. Try, fail, learn, try again.
A slightly more explosive approach than your average company. But hey, it seems to work for them. And then in 2024, they stuck the landing, didn't they?
You're talking about that test flight.
Yeah. When they launched the Starship prototype, flew it around for a bit, and landed it back on Earth. Like it was nothing. I think Elon Musk might have actually started picking out his Martian house after that one.
I wouldn't be surprised. It was a huge milestone. They launched the prototype, went up about 10 kilometers, did some fancy maneuvers in the air, and brought it down for a vertical landing. Showed everyone what Starship was capable of.
What a moment. But let's be real here. Developing Starship, testing it, eventually launching people to Mars on it, that's got to be expensive. How do they afford all of this?
Yeah.
Is it all just Elon Musk's billions?
Well, he's got a lot of money, that's for sure. But they've got other revenue streams too, contracts, partnerships. Oh, and Starlink.
Starlink. Their satellite internet project.
Right.
Thousands of little satellites beaming down internet from space.
Exactly. It might seem totally unrelated to Mars, but think about it. Starlink brings in a ton of money.
And that money can go towards funding those big, expensive Mars missions. It's like cosmic venture capitalism.
You got it. But of course, not everyone is thrilled with their grand plans, especially Starlink.
Oh. What kind of pushback are they getting? I mean, I've got to imagine there are some environmental concerns with launching thousands of satellites into space.
Oh, absolutely. There's the whole issue of rocket launches, even reusable ones, still using fuel, releasing emissions, and space junk. The more we put up there, the more crowded it gets.
Space is starting to look a little too much like my garage. So what's the solution? Do we just stop exploring space to protect the environment?
It's tricky, right? It's about finding ways to explore responsibly, minimizing our impact. And a lot of people are saying that SpaceX, especially with Starlink, isn't doing enough.
Okay, so we've got the environmental impact, the space junk issue, anything else? What about the whole, working at SpaceX thing? I've heard it's, well, intense, to say the least.
That might be the understatement of the year.
Okay, spill the tea. What's it really like to work at SpaceX? So spill the tea. What's it really like to work at SpaceX?
Intense doesn't even begin to cover it. Long hours are basically a given, deadlines are always looming, and the pressure to innovate, it's constant.
Well, we've got to factor in Elon Musk himself. The guy's a workaholic.
Oh, absolutely. He sets the bar incredibly high, expects everyone to keep up. We're talking All-nighters, working weekends, the whole 9 yards.
Sounds grueling.
It can be. It's definitely not for everyone. Some people thrive in that kind of environment, but it's also led to, well, burnout and high turnover. There are definitely some questions about employee well-being there.
I can see that. It's that old saying, nothing worth having comes easy. But at what cost? Right. It's a tough line to walk. So where does SpaceX go from here? What's next on the agenda?
Well, right now it's all about Starship. They've got to refine the design, keep doing those test flights, really put it through its paces.
And it's still working with NASA, right?
Oh, yeah, that partnership's still going strong. Especially with those Artemis missions, the ones to put people back on the moon. SpaceX is going to be a big part of that.
From barely getting to orbit to helping build a moon base, SpaceX has come a long way. But we can't forget about the ultimate goal, Mars. Does Elon Musk really think he can get a self-sustaining colony there in our lifetime?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And nobody really knows for sure. There's so much we still have to figure out. Life support, food, how to protect people from radiation. It's a long list.
It does sound pretty impossible when you lay it all out like that.
Oh, it's definitely a huge challenge. But hey, remember those early SpaceX launches? People thought those were impossible too, and look at them now.
True enough, they've got a knack for proving people wrong. But say they do get to Mars, set up a colony. What then? Is it ethical to try to make another planet like Earth?
That's the real question, isn't it? It's not just about whether we can do it, but should we do it? It's something we'll have to figure out as we go.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From those early Falcon 1 launches to reusable rockets to Starship and Mars colonization, it's been quite a ride through the world of SpaceX.
It really has.
What stands out to you the most about SpaceX?
I think it's their ambition. They set these huge, crazy goals that everyone else says are impossible, and they just go for it. It's inspiring,
I completely agree. They've really pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible, and they've shown what can be achieved when you dare to dream big.
Absolutely. And more than that, they've gotten everyone else excited about space again. It's like anything is possible.
Well said. It's been a pleasure diving into the world of SpaceX with you today. Until next time, keep looking up.
You got it.